Hello everyone and welcome back to Trans Am, the third round of the championship. Today we are at Fuji Speedway. Here is what the championship standings look like at the end of the previous round. Park Ferme slash Ebulk leads the way ahead of John Teeter, who sits in second position, 5 points between them, and then only a further 2 back to Chevy. They're the real contenders, I would say. They've shown the most pace throughout the series so far, but we'll see how it goes. Teeter had a strangely quiet round last time, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here at Fuji Speedway. Unfortunately, this round features the smallest field yet. Unfortunately, a lot of people couldn't make it to this round, including Ash, who missed the last one as well. Sparrow's not here, Matt's not here, Jokin's not here. I think he's still back at Laguna Seca in the pit lane. Consumer is back though, and we do have a new competitor amongst us, that is Wolf. So yeah, we'll see how this round goes, but anyway, we are gradually trying to let everyone past on our outlap. I left quite early and then realized I had the whole field behind me. I didn't want that on my qualifying lap, so I've been letting everyone through. But anyway, here we go then for our qualifying lap. We actually moved on already to our second flyer. First one, not really worth mentioning. So it's all or nothing here to see if we can actually set a half decent time as we tip it into the first corner. A lot of understeer on the exit as always, but that is the way it goes. The tricky thing about qualifying for all of these rounds is that quite often in practice and throughout the race, we're using low fuel maps. I'm planning in this race to use map 6 for basically the whole race, which means the engine's producing a lot less power and the car is a lot easier to control. And then all of a sudden you turn the engine up to map 1 in qualifying, and you don't even recognize the car you're driving. It just feels completely different. That's something I struggled with back at Laguna, though we did manage to string a good lap together in qualifying on that occasion. So let's see what happens here as we head towards the final sector. We made a little bit of a mess of the kink, just a touch too deep there. It's a very tricky corner to get the line right, and this car does tend to bog down on the exit there if you don't carry enough momentum through. But here are the real tricky corners, keeping it out nice and wide, trying to take a late apex here, try to use a bit of the exit road, didn't quite get all the way over there. Now over to the left and try and make this apex as late as possible, and we've got through there fairly nicely, and this is going to be a fairly handsome lap time as we now head towards the finish line, and we'll see what kind of lap time we set here in qualifying at Fuji Speedway. We come across the line and it's going to be a 1 minute 44.255, which is I think the second fastest lap I ever set around this circuit. I did a 44 flat in a practice qualifying session, so not far off really of what I know I can do, and the lap overall was fairly tidy, so I'm not going to complain about that. Nowhere near the pace of everyone else, but not so bad overall, I think. But it was Chevy who I think has taken pole ahead of John Teeter, and then Heafy, Artsy, and then Consumer, Jester, Park Ferme, championship leader now in this race, starting down in P7 and P8 for Wolf in the other Ferrari. So those Ferraris have won the first 2 races of the series, and they qualify 7th and 8th. A very quiet showing from them. The Di Tommaso Panteras locking out the front row in the hands of Chevy and John Teeter, but not in the hands of Jester. He's down in P6, so he'll be a little bit disappointed by that. Good showing from the little Cobra. P3 for Heafy in the Cobra. Wasn't sure how that car would go, but it seems to have plenty of speed. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting race. Certainly the form guide has somewhat gone out the window with that qualifying session. Very, like I said, a quiet session for the Ferraris, which are always expected to go fast. But yeah, we'll see how things play out in the race itself. So without further ado, let's get into it. And we're underway for the Trans Am race at Fuji, and off the start it's all fairly straightforward for us. We get a decent launch, but we're not really in the fight with the cars in front. We're starting on the hard compound tyres, so there's going to be a lot of strategy talk throughout this one. All three tyre compounds are required for this one, softs, mediums and hards, so there'll be a lot to play out over the course of this race. But we settle in to 9th position rather quickly in this one, and we just watch as everything unfolds in front of us. Quite a lot of fighting going on further up the field. We'll have a close look at that in a moment. But yeah, we've made it through the start phase of the race. Everyone already starting to pull ahead of us, as we will soon be seeing the different tyre strategies playing out, and those on softer tyres making their way through. Here is a replay of the start. Good launch from pole by Chevy, and Chevy will lead the way down towards the first corner. 4 wide in the background. Jester, Artsy, Consumer and Heafy all going side by side by side by side, and they all sort things out as Tita sends it up the inside into the first corner. Heafy shuffled out a bit wide as the two Ferraris battling away there as well, so plenty of action through the first corner as Artsy makes the move around the outside of Heafy into turn 2, and a bit of an awkward slide and a bit of contact there between Consumer and Jester, as Heafy seems to be struggling a little bit in the corners, so perhaps he is one of those on hard compound tyres, as he is hard on the defence as Jester makes the move down the inside of Consumer, and Jester squeezes ahead just about as Wolf getting involved now as well, and Heafy is found himself in a really awkward position there, and lets Jester through. Bit of a slide on the exit there, and that might allow others to get involved as well, as Consumer makes the move up the inside of Jester. Contact Jester off the road, and now they're all bottling up. Wolf getting involved, Heafy getting involved. I think Wolf's going to grab all of them here as Heafy gets through on Consumer. Park Ferme there as well, trying to get a piece of the action as Heafy shuffled out wide through the penultimate corner, and that has not gone to plan for the Cobra driver, as now Park Ferme and Consumer fighting away through the final corner. Park Ferme having a little look up the inside of his fellow Ferrari driver, but pretty soon a number of these drivers will be making their way into pit lane. Wolf's in the pit lane first, I think, and in comes Park Ferme as well, and further back we're also going to make a pit stop on the first lap. There's almost no reason to run more than a single lap on the hard compound tyres, so all of us are getting rid of them as early as possible. Artsy's in the pit lane as well to get rid of a set of hard tyres, and yeah, we are all just getting the worst tyre out the way early in the race, and saving the grippier stuff for the end. There are, of course, many alternatives when you have this many tyre sets to work with, but the other thing I need to mention is that there is a chance of rain in this race. Nothing on the radar yet in the bottom right, but we'll be keeping a close eye on that. Meanwhile, this was just before all those pit stops played out. Parc Ferme actually made a bit of contact with Wolf there into the final corner, so the two Ferraris coming together here at Fuji, and then on the way into pit lane, Consumer found himself in a bit of awkward position there, but managed to squeeze between the two Ferraris and stay on the racetrack while the two Ferraris made their way into pit lane. But there was also this moment. This is on board with Heafy, and check out this for some straight line speed from the Cobra, absolutely rocketing past both Consumer and Jester down towards the first corner. That is some real straight line speed in that car, so we need to watch out for that throughout the course of the race as well. Seems to struggle a bit in the corners. That could just be tyre compound, but that Cobra has straight line speed for sure. So yeah, that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Jester, though, already trying to get around the outside of Heafy and gets the job done. Consumer as well makes the move, and yeah, to have that kind of differential in mid-corner speed through that corner, I imagine Heafy must be on the hard compound tyres. So yeah, strange Heafy didn't pit on the first lap, as Consumer and Jester starting to fight away, and now Consumer all the way around the outside as they head into the kink, and this could get a little bit dicey as they keep this fight going. Jester holds on for the time being, but Consumer is really piling on the pressure to the back of that Di Tommaso Pantera. Let's see if there's any moves to be made here in the final sector as they round these very difficult corners. Jester seems to have things under control, but Consumer is looking high and low for a way through. But Jester maintains the position at the moment as they exit the final corner. Keep an eye on Heafy here, see if Heafy comes into the pits, and that is confirmation there that Heafy is almost certainly on the hard compound tyres. This one to be boxing on lap 2. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the varying strategies play out. Meanwhile, Consumer makes the move down the inside of Jester into the first corner. Nicely done there, and or maybe not, Jester with a bit of a switchback, and these two are going to continue this fight for a little bit longer. Consumer still looking to the inside, but not able to get through. Meanwhile, into the box comes Heafy, gets rid of those hard tyres, puts a set of mediums on, the same as everyone else who started on the hards. Meanwhile, Consumer still putting the pressure on Jester, tries to sneak through on the inside, and they're going to keep this fight going a little bit longer. Jester slots in though, and perhaps they've finally resolved this one. We'll see how it continues, but Consumer seems to have the better pace at the moment, so we'll see if that translates. Meanwhile, further up the road, or further back actually, these are drivers who have made their pit stops, and Artsy, a big moment there. Good catch to save that one, but that allows Wolf through, and Wolf gets a free position there. But yeah, Artsy, that car, I don't know if it was a similar sort of curb incident like he had at Laguna last time with the green stuff Mustang. Now he's driving a Holden. Pick a side, mate. Oh, that's another moment for Artsy into the barrier this time, and that allows the other Ferrari through of Parc Ferme, and that was a much bigger incident for Artsy there in the middle sector. So Artsy struggling with the handling at the moment for the second weekend in a row. Here's the onboard replay, full lock to the right, and just no chance of saving it for Artsy there. So yeah, not ideal, but we'll see how it continues to play out, as Artsy is now starting to put the pressure on Parc Ferme once again. So there is some inherent speed in that car. It just seems to be a little bit tricky to drive, but we'll see if there is perhaps an opportunity to overtake here. Artsy very close to the back of Parc Ferme now as they head into the very tricky last sector. Will there be an opportunity, as Heafy's there in the background as well, trying to catch up after going a lap too long on the hard compound tyres? And now Artsy looking, but no move to be made yet. But there is almost no margin between the pair of them. Parc Ferme seems to be lacking a bit of pace, it's got to be said. but the same was said at Laguna, and Parc Ferme won the race, so it can go either way, I suppose. But Artsy gets through with a clean move, and now can try and focus on minimizing those mistakes and trying to pull away. Meanwhile, Heafy is just inching closer and closer to this lot, but not in this fight just yet. Parc Ferme tucked well and truly into the slipstream of the car in front, but not quite matching the straight line speed. As look at Heafy, that gap is closing rapidly, and Heafy looking to the inside, surely not. No, it's not going to happen at turn 1, but Heafy is right there with Parc Ferme now, and the straight line speed of that little Cobra once again is unmatched, as now Heafy making the move down the inside into the left-hander, and Parc Ferme does not make an argument out of that. Heafy's through, and up one more position into 7th. P8 for Parc Ferme, second last and third last for the pair of them, but of course many pit stops and strategy left to play out. Meanwhile, as we look forwards further into the race, Heafy is now on the back of Artsy, and potentially could be looking for a move here to the inside, just peeking and not going to make the move just yet. But Heafy is definitely piling on the pressure at this stage, and has some very, very good pace in the Cobra. So, I mean, we saw Heafy started third, so you know, it's a bit of a shame really that he went a lap too long on the hard compound tyre at the start. Meanwhile, we make a bit of a mess of the kink, as we're now getting a blue flag. We get reset after driving off the track right in front of Chevy there, and that is quite possibly the worst place and time we could have got reset there. I was doing the right thing there. I was staying out of the way for the cars on the lead lap, and then we got reset right in front of Chevy, so I don't think we held him up. I think we managed to scramble out the way just in time, but that was not a good moment there for us. But anyway, we continue on our way, but that got the heart rate up for sure for a moment there. Out of the final corner though, and we are in a world of our own once again. No one around. We can just focus on our own race once more. But yeah, you can see it's a tough one for us. We don't really have anyone to fight with at the moment. We're just minding our own business at the back of the field. Further up though, we have this little squabble going on. Consumer using every bit of his front brake discs there. Look at the glow as Jester gets through on the inside. Consumer left it high and wide, and Jester was able to make that move. But yeah, the glow of the front brake discs is very much evident there into the first corner. That's really cool. Meanwhile, Chevy is heading into the pit lane. Chevy started on the soft compound tyres, and hits a good pace at the start of the race, and we'll be now getting rid of those starting tyres. Further back, Jester started on the mediums, and I believe will be coming in on this lap as well. So, you know, some different strategies sort of already converging in this one. Consumer looks like he may be coming in, bails out. Just wanted to get that little bit of slipstream from Jester on the start of the straight. But Chevy puts on a new set of the soft compound tyres. So going for 2 sets of softs at the start of the race. Still needs to use the mediums and hards at some point throughout the race. So it'll be interesting to see when Chevy chooses to do that. It's going to have to be at the end of the race really, as Jester gets rid of his medium compound tyres and puts a set of hards on for Jester as he exits at pit lane. No fuel going on for the Jester car, so clearly not planning a very long stint on those hards, which is what you would expect. They're quite an unpopular tyre. Look at the brake disc glowing there, far out. You can see it again. They are working overtime into the first corner as Chevy emerges from pit lane in P5, right ahead of Artsy, and is second of the stoppers in this race, I believe, or of those. It's hard to keep up, honestly. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, Park Verme enters pit lane for the second time, and we'll put on a set of soft compound tyres. They will probably go the rest of the race. Also into the pits comes John Teeter, the race leader, and Teeter moves on to the medium compound, I believe, for that stint. As out of the pit lane comes Park Verme in last position, even behind me. So obviously I still have a pit stop to make. I haven't used the soft compound tyres yet, whereas I think Park Verme will be going to the end. But yeah, Park Verme's just not got the pace that you would expect from a championship leader in this round. Meanwhile, into the pits once again comes Jester, and that will be, I believe, the soft compound tyres going on for Jester, and a fresh load of fuel as well to carry him to the end of the race. As out of pit lane comes Consumer with a penalty there. I didn't comment on it at the time, but he made a mess of pit entry and just ran way too deep and got a 3-second penalty for his troubles. So unfortunate little moment there for Consumer, and now has to contend with the medium compound tyres as well. Consumer actually started on the softs, which is why he had some pretty good pace in the opening phase of the race. But anyway, bit of an off there on the outlap as well. Out of pit lane now comes Jester, and Jester, I think, will be going to the end of the race. Currently down in 7th, but there are those such as Chevy at the front who are yet to use the mediums and hards. So it's really anyone's guess who's where in this race, as Wolf gets a little bit deep into pit lane. I think that was a little bit lag induced at that moment, so it was probably not as bad as it looked from his perspective compared to the replay. But anyway, here's Park Verme going to move down the inside. It was only a matter of time before Park Verme managed to make that move, and still no sign of rain. I was sure that it would show up by now, but my strategy was to use mediums until the rain came and then put softs on later in the race, because once it starts raining, the tyre wear is reduced massively, because I've really been struggling with tyre wear in this car. But yeah, it looks like the rain's not coming, and we're just going to have to stretch these stints. It is possible for me to get to the end of the race on the softs and mediums that we have now, but it's going to be hard, as we just look at a replay here of Park Verme getting down the inside, and we kept well away from each other there, and gave plenty of racing room. But anyway, into the box comes Wolf, and I think Wolf will be going on to the soft compound tyres, getting rid of the mediums that he put on at the end of the first lap. Consumer, brake disc glowing again at the end of the first corner, and or the end of the straight into the first corner, and not coming to a stop there. Brakes working overtime once again, not quite pulling the car up there into turn 1. Wolf comes out of pit lane then, and emerges P7. Meanwhile, further up the road, Artsy heads into pit lane now, and again, the strategy is getting very difficult to follow, but for everyone who pit on lap 1, such as Artsy, it is the same strategy. Get rid of the mediums, put the softs on for the remainder of the race. Different story for John Teeter. He's done, I think, a couple of laps on those medium compound tyres, and will now come into the pit lane from the race lead, and I believe he'll be moving on to the hard compound tyres for this stint. Artsy leaves pit lane now and drops down, currently in 8th position, just ahead of us. So that's sort of where things stand at the moment. There we are, not too far behind, but we still have a pit stop to make, so we're not really this close in actual fact. But yeah, we'll see how things play out. I do like the soft tyres more than any other compound. Here's Teeter getting those hard compound tyres on and leaving pit lane. And this will be interesting because not far behind, Chevy is right there. So first and second on track. second and third in the championship, very close, and these two could be first and second in the championship, with Parc Ferme having such a horrid race so far. And Chevy going around the outside of Tita, a bit of a bump between them. Chevy off the road and just about keeps the fight going on the inside and gets through with the grippier tyres. John Tita on cold hards never really stood a chance at holding on to that position, but it is going to be an intense battle between these two for the rest of the race. Chevy with the upper hand at the moment, but still needing to use both the mediums and the hards. Here's Consumer once again on the medium compound tyres at the moment, and struggling a little bit at the kink turn there, just wobbling off the road. No big deal, bit of dirty tyres for a few corners as a result of that. Efi in pit lane, making his way out of pit lane in the Little Cobra. Not a lot of visibility out of that car with the windshield banner, so that's going to make things a little bit tricky at times. But anyway, we make our way into pit lane now. It's so dark here, it looks like we're about to have some torrential rain, but it just isn't happening as we make our way into the pits for our final stop. And you can see we will not need a full tank to get to the end, but we'll get a set of the soft compound tyres on for the rest of the race, and in comes John Tita as well at the same time as us, only a lap further ahead, and John Tita will also get a set of the soft compound tyres for the rest of the race. He'll be glad to get off those hards, just as everyone else has been throughout the race. But anyway, we feel like we actually underfuel the car by a lap, because in all likelihood we're going to be a lap down by the end of the race, so no need to put in that extra fuel. We're not going to use it. So out of pit lane we come then, and we emerge 9th position, of course, and we'll just keep trucking on to the end of the race. John Tita finishes refueling, and now we'll exit pit lane, and we'll see what he can do for the rest of this one. It's currently P4 for Tita, so he does have some work to do, but of course the cars ahead still have pit stops to come. But at the moment, that is how things stand. And the field all still fairly close together. It's hard to tell where everyone is based on strategy, but there's not a huge field spread, I think, when once everything sort of shakes out. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where everyone emerges after their final stops, because it's I think Tita's looking very strong. Chevy, we have no idea because he's a long, long way ahead, but with 2 stops left to make. Meanwhile, we're looking at Parc Ferme here, and Parc Ferme under pressure from Artsy once again. We've seen this before, so perhaps Parc Ferme got the jump in terms of strategy, less fuel to put in, but Artsy going to make the move, and Parc Ferme did not make a big argument out of that. So again, we're seeing that the Ferraris are struggling. It wasn't just qualifying. Belize Parc Ferme is not having a good race, and not emerging into the lead out of nowhere the way he did back at Laguna. Meanwhile, we take a look at Chevy, who is, like I said, miles ahead of the rest of the field. Consumer a little bit further back, running in 2nd position. Chevy still needs to use the mediums and hards. Consumer just needs to use the hards on mediums at the moment. We'll just have a little run through the entire field, see where everyone is at. 3rd position right now is Jester, with John Tita right behind, so we might stick with these two for a little bit and see how this battle plays out, because Tita is very, very quick. They're in the same car. Jester, the non-engine swap version. I know Chevy has the engine swap, not sure about Tita. I know Jester has very much been fiercely sticking with the standard engine in the Di Tommaso, but all 3 Di Tommaso Panteras running very strong in this race, and Tita makes the move on Jester. Not too much fuss there, and Jester drops down into 4th position. Tita up to 3rd, and that battle is now resolved. P5 currently is Wolf, and then further back P6 is Artsy in the Holden, the old Peter Brock car there, and not far behind Parc Ferme. We just saw that overtake between those two earlier, and Heafy still sort of in recovery mode after running too long in the hards and hasn't really got back into the fight. And then of course we run down in last position, fair way behind everyone else. Anyway, we still push on, and now heading into the first corner, onto the grass on the entry there, bit of a moment, and we find ourselves pointing backwards. Actually pulled the handbrake there to try and get the car stopped. Might not have been the wisest decision, but now we are in Blue Flag City because everyone wants to get past us right now, and yeah, we just decided to wait out off the side of the road, and we'll continue on once I think there was 4 separate cars make their way through. So that wasn't a good moment for us. That was my biggest mistake of the race, and I don't really know what happened there. I just sort of drifted across to the left in the braking zone, caught the grass, and just kind of lost it. That was just a clumsy mistake that shouldn't have made, but regardless, that's what happened. Anyway, up the road, Consumer is under pressure from John Teeter at the moment, and Consumer still needs to make one more stop. John Teeter going to the end and is on softer compound tyres, so I think the overtake here might just be inevitable, but we'll see how it goes. John Teeter's had exceptional pace throughout this race, and just has been running very, very strong, as he's now getting held up a little bit by Consumer. Makes the move to the inside. Consumer's not giving this one up too easily, but John Teeter gets through and moves up into second position. Consumer drops down into third. Mentioned Heafy was catching up to Parc Ferme, and here we go, Heafy in the slipstream, and Parc Ferme actually puts a blinker on, so really not willing to fight in this one, and is now last by myself. So yeah, it's not been a good race for Parc Ferme. Just not the pace here at Fuji, as Heafy heads through the first corner. Back to Consumer. Jester is starting to catch up, and if Jester can make this move, the 3 Di Tommaso Panteras will be running first, second and third in this race, which is just crazy. And here comes Jester trying to make the move as they head into the final sector. Consumer holding on at the moment, but I think it's only going to be a matter of time before Jester gets through. Jester on the soft tyres, Consumer still on those mediums, and still yet to use the hards, as I continue to say, but not giving up any of these positions too easily, as Jester is going to try and make the move now to the inside. Through the penultimate corner, side by side they go, and Jester not able to get the move done. Slots back in behind briefly, but still running side by side. Can't make the move there. Now switches back and makes the move to the inside of the final corner, and gets the job done on Consumer, and moves up into third position. So it's now a Di Tommaso 1, 2, 3 in this race, and those cars are looking very, very strong. Consumer actually gave Jester a bit of a bump there in the straight line. Here's the onboard, bang, just a little boost to say hello, and that was the end of that battle. Meanwhile, Consumer continues to lose places. That's Wolf getting through, and yeah, those mediums on the Consumer car just starting to give up, I think, in terms of tyre life. There's a little moment through the kink to demonstrate that. So I think we'll see Consumer in the pit lane very soon. Meanwhile, out in front, Chevy has had clean air for the longest time, and now comes into the pit lane, and will put a set of the hard compound tyres on with just a few laps left in this race, and we'll see how things go as he re-emerges out of pit exit. Still in the lead at the moment, but who knows where he'll emerge after the second stop. He still needs to use the medium compound tyres. A bit further back, we've got this little battle going on. This is a proper Trans Am battle here. A few real muscle cars. RT battling away with Consumer, and RT gets the move done, and takes 5th position away from Consumer. But like I say, Consumer still has a stop to make, so that's not really for genuine track position. Back to Chevy, who comes into pit lane once more after one solitary lap on the hard compound tyres, and this will be, I think, a rather short stop onto the mediums, maybe a splash of fuel to get to the end, but there are only a few laps left. We go back to John Teeter, and John Teeter currently in second. Will it be first by the time Chevy makes his pit stop? We go back to the pit crew, and the new set of the tyres go on. How much fuel is going to be needed? No fuel at all. Chevy's already got the fuel to go to the end. Here comes Teeter along the straight, and Teeter takes the lead into the first corner. Chevy emerges really not far behind in second position, just a couple of seconds in it there, but Chevy on the medium tyres, I don't think we'll have much of a chance to catch up. Jester runs third, and now we can see where everyone really is. Wolf in fourth, Artsy in fifth. Everyone has now made their final stop, and the top five are very, very close together. Heafy a bit further back in sixth position, as into the pits finally comes the Consumer to get rid of those medium tyres that have been working overtime, and now we'll run to the end of the race on a set of the hards. Meanwhile, we have Parc Ferme heading through turn one, and myself trailing right behind. Once we actually let Parc Ferme pass with the blue flags, we actually followed him quite closely and had some pretty good pace, so that was encouraging that we were able to keep up with Parc Ferme for a little while after letting him through. So that was really the best moment of the race for me personally, as we set our fastest lap of the race during that time, breaking into the low 45s, around a second away from what we did in qualifying. So I was pretty happy with that as a fastest lap for our own race. But anyway, Consumer comes out of pit lane, and that is everyone's final stops made, and the field are now as it will probably be for the rest of the race. I don't think there's anyone really too close together in terms of changing positions. One thing that still is up for grabs though is the fastest lap of the race. I've got the graphics up on screen. You can see John Teeter's got the fastest lap at the moment, and with just over a lap to go, I think John Teeter will be looking to improve on that marker just to secure that and make sure no one else has a chance of stealing it. If someone has saved a little bit of extra fuel and they're on the soft tyres at the end of the race, it is very much possible that that fastest lap can change within the last couple of laps. So we'll see what John Teeter can do this time around, as it is an improvement. It is broken into the 39s this time. So that is a much better lap from John Teeter, and that should secure the fastest lap of the race, I think, as Teeter begins the final lap of the race in the race lead, well clear of the rest of the field. It's been a drive very much like the one back at Broadbean for John Teeter, taking the lead at the start and not really ever looking back. So it is a John Teeter performance. That's all that can be said about this one, and he's actually improving at the moment on that previous fastest lap of the race, as John Teeter just has a couple of corners left to navigate in this one. It's been a pretty much flawless drive from John Teeter, patient when he needed to be in the traffic, and then absolutely rapid in clean air. Out of the final corner comes John Teeter, and along the main straight to finish off what has been a perfect day here at Fuji Speedway. Missed out on pole position, but it's going to be the race victory and the fastest lap for John Teeter, and he improves to a 1 minute 38 for a fastest lap. That is a significant statement there, as Chevy comes across the line to take second position. A decent haul of points for Chevy. Jester completes the Di Tommaso 1, 2, 3, and from 6th place on the grid, that's a respectable drive as well. Next is Wolf. First drive for him, P4, not a bad result. Next across the line is Artsy, P5. What could have been without those mistakes? Potentially P4, maybe even P3 in a perfect race. Heafy crosses the line to take P6 in the Cobra. A little bit disappointing after qualifying 3rd position. Next is the championship leader, probably former championship leader after this round, Parc Ferme, disappointing weekend overall, and Parc Ferme crosses the line to take P7 in the Ferrari, and as I keep saying, a quiet weekend for them. We'll be next to come across the line. We're a lap down in 9th position, and it'll be a 24 lap race for us, and we'll cross the line to take P9, and last to cross the line will be Consumer. A tough weekend, I think, for Consumer. Just not quite with the pace and a few mistakes creeping in, but it'll be 8th place for Consumer in the Big Mustang, and that will round out the results for this weekend. So let's have a little look at what points are going to be scored after this round. John Teeter takes 34 points, race win 33 points, 1 point for the fastest lap. Chevy takes 30 points for 2nd position, along with 1 point for pole position. That's 31 points for Chevy. And then for everyone else, 28 for Jester, 26 for Wolf, 24 for Artsy, 22 for Heafy, 20 for Parc Ferme, 18 for Consumer, and 16 for myself in 9th position. So that is what we get out of this one. Let's see how that affects the rankings. So in the championship standings, John Teeter takes the lead with 90 points, just 5 points ahead of Chevy, and then a further 4 points back to Parc Ferme on 81 points. 1 point further back is Jester on 80, Artsy has 76, Heafy on 58, Ash on 56, Sparrow 50 points, also 50 points for myself, Consumer 49, Wolf 42, 38 for Matt, and 34 for Jokin. As I explained in the previous episode, those who don't compete, such as Sparrow and Matt and Jokin and Ash, who didn't make it to this round, will get the points for 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th. I awarded them in championship order, but I don't know how Jester will choose to do that. But anyway, that is going to do it for this one. So I'll say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Feel free to give us some feedback in the comments. It's always very helpful. Other than that, I'll see you next time, and goodbye.